Welcome everyone to the question and answer session with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche today. And Garchen Rinpoche has requested that we get through all of the questions in this session. So we will, with the motivation that this teaching that Garchen Rinpoche will give will be of the highest benefit to all beings, and that all beings be quickly freed from suffering. So we will start with the first question. Number 1, during the Chakrasamvara practice, I can produce overwhelming amounts of bliss, but no inner heat results from the bliss. My hands remain cold, and I also live in a cold environment. Is there something I'm doing wrong?
tambo dea in gore te chode tomo long te wa zung tini long to tini yang dea de an ro gore ben tini tomo lo shu ga gore de tang ti dea de tupola yang nyam ni che ya yore dea de tupola de deva kap tini dea de kama do tini rang sembe nelo ge dea re ti the Mupandamra Gomia, the top Ravorimato, the Rank Semper, Nero Tola, Levon, Nelo Horanga, Ashitella, Chuka de Achimboson, they are units of Ulomani, Chuka Rank Semper, Rashitola, they got the Devachimbo, then for Germany, the Devachimbo, the Urete, Rule Melody, the Luga, to hold the Tesa, the Tomoga, Nagrin, the Mimic, the Regional Tumor Dramator, the Tolore, the Malari Bag, lapsera gom japna tani troma level tani mapala ta serte tani ni ge shoulder na se there karoma on the look horse to watch in tani trole ore look horse to watch in trole ore this young mai zubola chepari ore look at Dr. So the Archibald thing or the Sadashimo Bundle, never took our head.
Okay, yeah. So there's nothing that you're doing wrong, but first actually bliss arises. And then from that arises the warmth of Dhamma. And so when the warmth doesn't arise, we should maybe make a greater effort in practicing Dhamma and keeping the wind energies at the navel. And then it's actually through the power of the winds that the bliss arises from the navel. So you should maybe practice Dhamma. And actually, also it is possible to only practice with the bliss, even if the heat hasn't arisen. Because when the bliss arises, then you should look where actually is that bliss. And you recognize that the bliss actually is the natural state of your own mind. And so the various visualizations and so forth, the various methods that we apply are only methods to ultimately come to the nature of the mind. And when you experience the nature of the mind, the experience is one of great bliss. It's called the Great Bliss Dharmakaya. And there is no other bliss to be sought elsewhere. And this great bliss is unchanging. So nevertheless, if no heat arises, then you can also practice different yogic exercises, together with the Dhamma practice and the visualizations. Also, when Miller Rinpoche himself, when he was practicing meditation in Lapchi, there was also a time where no heat arose in him. And so then he practiced a yogic exercise that he had received from Marpa, that kind of stirs the dakinis within his body, and that then generated the warmth. So there's different yogic exercises that one could practice. And also, not everybody's body is the same. So people have different levels, different degrees of physical strength or physical energy. But the most important point is to meditate on that experience of great bliss. And basically, it is to meditate within the state of Mahamudra. Actually, the power of the Mahamudra practice is exactly the same. And so in brief, when if that is your experience, then you shouldn't actually consider the warmth or the heat to be as most important. And because the heat is just like a common and ordinary attainment. What's more important is to recognize the nature of bliss, and that is Mahamudra. So you should regard Mahamudra as most important, not the warmth arising, whether or not the warmth arises. You should look at the nature of the mind and recognize how the nature of the mind is unified with a state of great bliss. When you realize that, that is it's called the supreme siddhi of Mahamudra. The warmth that arises is just an ordinary siddhi, so it's not the most important thing. And the reason why this is very important is also, but this is mentioned in the Chakrasamvara practice. It says that I am Haruka, the essence of all the deities, like abiding in the nature of great bliss of the mind of beings. And so therefore, like whoever has a mind, once there's mind, there is also the state of immeasurable love and bliss that is selfless. And when that is recognized, then this mind naturally pervades, and the pervasiveness of this great bliss then naturally becomes an offering to all the higher beings, and it purifies the obscurations of the sentient beings. So it is this feeling, this experience of great bliss that they then receive as an offering. And you recognize the nature of the mind. You come to the state of Mahamudra. And so that is why it is said that it is of a greater benefit to meditate in a single session of meditation than it is to save the lives of all sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsara. So this is speaking about the benefits of Mahamudra practice. Now, when you practice Mahamudra and you experience great bliss, you need to recognize its all-pervasive nature. And since it is all-pervasive, actually there is no distinction between the higher beings and the lower beings, because it is all-pervasive. And when you see that, a great feeling of joy and delight arises in you. And then just naturally, through the power of your own body, heat arises, but actually the heat itself is not really what is the beneficial part of the practice.
Question number 2. I want to practice dream yoga, but due to health concerns, I cannot sleep on my right side. Do you have any tips for dream yoga?
요 예속 통에 대해서 주반 영수거리 물론 냠니 개발 쪽벌을 대와다 냐와다 가인들이 다시 접아 자 개발이라 요 말이 쪽벌에 대해서 내는 이 걱정들이 니도 많이 니 세상만 보지 파니 책만 보지 니 세상만 보지는 뒷바들이 니도 많이 이번에 이박감이 초박하겠어. 대하고 니 많이 빈 참들이 깔라말람 찾기요. 그래봐 초함이 반다고 초바디 정상다고 제거를 이발들이 대응지만 대응지장 이렇게 또 말한테 고학을 뜨니들이 영학은 상황 탐지 대말은 저기 요래 지금 말한테 좀 저기 요래 이 영학은 나 대말은 저기 루이드 쪽어진 루이드랑 무슨 이때가 루이드들이 무보유배 너그 무보리 상거리 때 좀만 루이드 셔틀들이 너 동네는 지금 몰랐나지 저거 샘몰랐나지를 이 샘도 고학들 때 하고는 니가 나와도 말하면 개발이요 말이에서 고학들 때 거나 그러니까 나와나들이 레도방 뭐지 말하면 개발해서 고학들이 양대한테 대체는 너는 니 많이 이빨이 대하고는들이 저기 요래지 이쪽으로 제가 말해 똑바로데 멈타자는 이 공부들이 세정만 보지 들이 팽기 요래 요 예측부터 그냥 똑같으면 저기 요래지.
So generally, regarding sleeping on the right side, it is said that the reason for sleeping on one's right side is because then less delusions arise within the mind, but actually it really doesn't make a difference if one really practices. So you can either lie down on whichever side or even sit up, sit sleeping, fall asleep when you're sitting. And basically the point is that you should remain within a state of practice. When you're sitting up and you're falling asleep, then you're waking up over and over again. And so you should actually try to do that. When you're going to sleep, you should try to wake yourself again and again throughout the night, because it is this state between falling asleep and being awake that we need to recognize. So this kind of transition phase between falling asleep or waking up. So not being awake and not falling asleep, that's why it's good to wake yourself up repeatedly. So in that space in between waking and sleeping, there's an experience, like a feeling that you need to recognize. And the experience is connected to the visionary appearances of redness, whiteness, and blackness, which is then falling into an unconscious state. And then there is a feeling that is similar to fear. So it is this state that needs to be recognized, this in-between state. And so that's one. And then also, in terms of the dream itself, we can practice with the dreams also, first of all, on the basis of an understanding. So normally, how we understand things is that we think that the daytime appearances are the reality, are true, and that the nighttime appearances, our dreams, are not true. But actually, the daytime appearances, so this is the time where we consider our body, our physical body, as most important. We cherish our body because we believe that it is a real thing. It is really us. So we fixate, we cling to the body. And however, if we keep clinging to that, thinking that this is real, actually later when we die and we leave behind this body, we continue to go on, just like in a dream state. So this whole daytime or like lifetime experience of having a body is actually a false perception. So that is one thing that we need to understand when we practice dream yoga, that there is no difference between the waking state perceptions and the dream perceptions when we are sleeping. And then when you recognize that, then also in the waking state in the daytime, you will not have so many hopes and fears arising in the mind. It's all just like a dream. So think about this, understand this over and over again. And then regarding the recognizing the dream state, it is good to make yourself wake up from sleep throughout the night repeatedly, because we need to recognize this in-between state between the waking state and the sleep or dream state. So that's what's most important, and it's not the body or the posture of the body. That's not what's most important. So in that regard, it is actually fine if you're not sleeping on the right side. And so also for the dream state, we need to really see the sameness between the perception that we have at the daytime, during the daytime, and during the night when we are sleeping. So it is because we believe in the true existence of the waking state perceptions that often our experiences of suffering are very intense. And then also in our dreams, we experience suffering. They are both the same. The daytime waking state perceptions and the dream perceptions are the same. They're illusory. And so when you know that, you will be able to instantly let go of whatever feelings arise. If you don't believe in its reality, it all is the same. Actually, from the moment you enter the womb of your mother until the day you die, this entire life is just like the dream of a single night. So this understanding also will help your dream practice.
Question number 3. My daughter is 17 and has been suffering from depression for 2 years. She tried to commit suicide and now is taking antidepressants. How can I help her? What you can do to help her is I can give her like blessing pills and other sacred substances. And
also it would be beneficial to hear the sound of Dharma. For example, a prayer like the aspiration prayer of Dewa Chen, or a mantra like a Dharani mantra or any mantra. That is beneficial, but also she has her own karma and has to experience the karma until it is purified. And so until then, she will have this problem. But she becomes your support to cultivate love and compassion and generosity and patience. And basically, support to practice the 6 paramitas. And also the fact that you are now taking care of her is a sign that in a previous life she was taking care of you, and now you are taking care of her. It's the karma coming around. So recognize that, and also recognize her to be a source for you to cultivate love and compassion and merit, and that she's also purifying, and also you're purifying negative karma. So for both of you, it's actually a good thing. So you shouldn't consider the situation as negative or like a suffering situation.
Question number 4. Please briefly explain what the 3 samadhis are.
그냥 또 소리 때문에 가까이 요살에 대답제 때문에 등등 남들이 잠을 많고 요래지 근데 소리들이 있다가 깨름 건 것들이 여기 이제 공방이 이제 이제 남시 연결해서 공부 그리고는 다음 때문에 인성들이 라이크로 공부해야 되라서 봐디 등등 남선데 또 무치 보여래 등등 남선 도저히 갈 당우 제리들이 대리 되게 되시 봐디 선대식이 뭐 황시한 거래 타마 선대식이 뭐래 그래서 달리도는 그냥 대리 저기 되게 이제 다다다네 시라고 뭐 나오냐만디 시라고 광주들이 저기 되게 이게 시라고 이게 홍무시에라서 이제 되게 대리지 그런 상황들이 당연히들이 라이 고속 사실 다시는 이제 연구를 되지 도지 홍에 도지 대라고 저러고 요래 이 예를 들면 되게 이제 너 속을 때인지 양태 가까이 요래
There's different kinds of 3 samadhis actually, but commonly in the old Tantric sadhanas teachings, the teachings are explained on the basis of 3, or the practice of sadhanas is explained on the basis of 3 samadhis. And then you have also 3 samadhis in the sutra path that are explained differently. So there's different kinds of 3 samadhis actually. But now, according to the Tantric path, the 3 samadhis are, first there is the samadhi of suchness, which refers to the empty nature of the mind. And then there is the cause or causal samadhi, which is the visualization of the seed syllable that has the essence of one's consciousness. And then there is the all appearing samadhi, and that is the entire appearance of the deity's form. The 3 samadhis are actually really very meaningful for our practice, because the first one, the samadhi of suchness, is really Buddha nature. It shows that even though we have different bodies, we all have the same Buddha nature. And then the causal samadhi, and that represents the wisdom aspect of the mind, and that destroys this thought of me, this concept of I am. So right now there's this thought of I exist. And that is transformed into the seed syllable, Shri or Hung, and so forth. And so also in the all-appearing samadhi, in the third one, the deity's entire form appears, or sometimes it's also the the Vajra or the Hung syllable that transforms into the deity and so on. There's different ways of visualizing. But it basically refers to the gradual arising of the generation stage in the deity yoga practice. That's according to the Tantric path. And according to the Sutra path, there are 3 different kinds of samadhi.
요사데 고마용들이 드바타고 뜨는데는 홀데가 취삼치 드마타고 말람타고 드마타고 저기 바랍타고 뜨니 일단 나온다래 된 돈은 림발 맞을까 대 시송 되니 바로 와들더니 그 나토라 차단 똑바라서 이제 상처가 요 말들 드마시바스 들이 도지타고 뜨는데 대인들이 샘 대식 뭐 코란들이 시바들이 열은 초록사요 말들이 도지타고 뜨는데 어떤 철들이 세 열라 스종을 열라 남들 신인들 와들이 들이 차단 똑바만 못해 되는 것은 세매지들이 레타 파차사 되는 거를 좀 요래 이제는 처바면은 들이 초록사요 말 것도 뭐라나지 들이 도지타고 뜨는데 이제 대식 뭐 코란들이 들이 나도 좀 박차탐지다 담아서 저도 나와타는 그 센서를 소비면 소들이 되는 제가 요사래서 내가 거래 들이 바로 되는 저들이 정말요 말이 선대식 뭐 그거 제대로 봐라 들이 제시 매바티 송하고는 semla plata nato trovata ter un collega salata che ritornava hakoto dei dunque per devaci mode se non si stola dentro la si lettere di va me va te faccio insare e tanto che ranga coare del naga che potenti zamor con ranga cioè giai e te ta di sia con tendo sotto di tanti con Nitata che potenti da triplico cotato da ancora para ticciocare da cabadam portata ciò tratto di sei a ore ma che te stava da sotto di rango qua la
Regarding the 3 samadhis of the sutra path, so I understood that once by reading the from the Maitreya aspiration prayer, and so I do not have much learning, so this is just my own take on that. But so the 3 samadhis of the sutra path are the illusion-like samadhi, then secondly the hero-like samadhi, and third the vajra-like samadhi. And there are probably many explanations on that too. Regarding the illusion-like samadhi, here one realizes first one realizes that all appearances, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana are illusory by nature. They come and they go just like waves in water or clouds in the sky or mist, but lack any true existence. And when one sees that, then there these thoughts of attachment and anger and fear will not arise within the mind, if you know that things are illusory. Then second, there's the vajra-like samadhi, and that is really Buddha nature, and that this awareness, which is Buddha nature, is the vajra. It has never been confused by any object, even though it now seems that temporarily we experience confusion. So it is like a temporary like kind of a layer on top of that confusion, where the mind is clinging to external objects. And due to that, then the mind develops thoughts of attachment and anger and believes in the true existence of all appearances. And due to that, one accumulates karma and habitual imprints, which then lead to the appearance of the 6 realms of samsara. The fundamental nature of the mind has never been confused. This is explained also in the Samantabhadra prayer. So the Vajra-like samadhi refers to Buddha nature. And it's also related to our perception and habitual imprints. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says the way things appear is one's own mind. So this is my personal understanding of this. And then there is the hero-like samadhi. Hero because of being fearless and courageous. When one realizes Buddha nature, one realizes that mind is beyond birth and death, just like space. And birth and death comes and goes like clouds in the sky. But one realizes that all of the various phenomena of samsara and nirvana are like mist in the sky or like clouds in the sky. So if one understands that, one experiences the great bliss nature of mind that transcends all suffering. That is the natural state of the mind. And that is unchanging, a changeless nature. So this is my understanding I've gained. I've also asked Khenpo Tenzin Sangpo about this before. And so anyways, you have the conditions, the excellent conditions. Now you're very fortunate to have other lamas too that you can ask. You have, for example, Khenpo Tenzin here and Khenpo Kunjuk Tupsang here that you can ask your questions. This is just my own personal take or understanding on this. This term samadhi itself, so it means like it's a meditative absorption, and it means a single pointed state of the mind on any kind of object of focus. So therefore there is hundreds of different kinds of samadhi.
Question number 5. I can recite mantra for many hours but have difficulty visualizing even the hung. If I force myself to visualize, I become tight and lose my enthusiasm. Sometimes flickers of visualizations spontaneously appear. My intention is to focus on the mantra while feeling the presence and qualities of white Tara and connecting with the nature of mind without worrying about the visualization. Is this correct?
Digital Shenrizy 저기 마 저기 이번만고가 대한들이 작을 바치지 참나도 저도 저것도 바까 강 참강한데 저것도 바까 이 봐도 저 작을 바 자존지지도 바까 근데 또선 그것도 좀 선마행 받에 제시대로 힘 받아도 돼야더니 힘 받아도 바까로 선마행 받으라 뭐지 그래 야 딩하디 통라는 배나 온베타키리키라야 사람 백디 방황 백디나 데 베타키리카라데 도디 존을 랑 심르과 사와디들이 르파시 시에요레 도디에들 동화에서 드리텔이 존을 또 탐치 파셨다봐 못다바데 갈 돌린더니 박차 나도 세고 박차 탐지 나도 박차도 또다바데 도디 존도 또 침모지 그러니까 사람들이 방들은 나또 답지 파도지 이 동작이 봐 많이 뭐 받쳐야 돼 그래야지 도지게 되거든 나또 어디면 샘 준비 시합 많이 반대히 나또 탐지는 정말 봐 나또 답지를 신심이 봐 파욕대 철랍나 이 port로 되지 사자집에 동물에 이제 뭐 잡으러 공야지 대사 가고 요지 샘 많이 봤대 직대들 뭐 초다 봤대 선마인 봐 되시요 저는 가는더니 니마도 저는 그래
It's actually good that you. It's okay if you're in a state of relaxation. If you just relax, that is better. And when you recite the mantra single pointedly, And that's also the reason why we have to recite many mantras, a great number of mantras. It's because when we recite the mantra single-pointedly, we are purifying our grasping at sound. And through the visualization, we are purifying the grasping at the body. And then sometimes even our perception of being in a retreat cabin, for example, a physical presence in there, even that diminishes. So mainly if you recite the mantra within a state of mindfulness, single-pointed mindfulness, free from distraction, then just through that, the thoughts that the thoughts of grasping at, there's this, we are grasping at the kind of conflation of objects and their meaning. So all grasping at sound stops. Now, for example, actually all mantra, the meaning of all mantra is really included in the Vajrakilaya mantra. When you recite the mantra, you can also reflect upon the meaning. So in terms of the Vajrakilaya mantra, Om Benzakili Kilaya Sarva Bignam Bang Humpet. So Om Benzakili Kilaya is the name of the deity, Vajrakumara. The Vajra here, Vajrakumara together refers to clear intrinsic awareness. And Vajra is the abiding in the empty nature. And Kumara means youthful, which is another name for Vajrakilaya. And youthful because he possesses perfect strength or power to destroy all thoughts and habitual imprints. And then Sarva Bignam Bam Humpet means to destroy all these thoughts and habitual imprints. So probably most mantras, especially of the Vajra class, are really in essence, in meaning, the same as the Vajrakilaya mantra. So the essence is to destroy the conceptual thinking, the discursive mind, through sustaining mindfulness and undistracted single-pointedness, without clinging to any thought, just letting all thoughts go. Thoughts come and go just like waves on water. So one just abides within a state of Mahamudra. It is indeed very difficult to visualize all kinds of different visualizations. Actually, the best visualization really is to be in a state of mindfulness. So therefore, it is fine if you recite the mantra without any distraction. And actually, of all the visualizations, the Hung is the easiest to visualize. And so you should, the way you visualize the Hung. So maybe it's difficult to think that when you think of the shape, you visualize the shape Hung in your mind and having the nature of the mind, that may be a bit difficult. But the way you should see Hung is more as not really a physical, like a kind of a shape or a form, but it's more like a sound or a wind energy. You can also visualize that. It doesn't have to be a form or a shape. It's the sound Hung, this feeling, the vibration of the Hung that you visualize. And that is very helpful, especially when different feelings and thoughts arise in the mind, when a feeling arises. And you just remember, you bring to mind this, the feeling of Hung, and not thinking about how it looks like, the shape, not visualizing it in that sense, but in a sense of visualizing its sound, and its energetic feeling, the vibration of it, like a pulse. Like when you focus on your heartbeat, you feel how there's a pulse going through all of the veins in your body. So it's like the Hung, it reverberates naturally throughout your entire body. All the channels in your body really, like, they pulsate with Hung, Hung, Hung. So mainly, however, you should focus on the navel, visualize in this sense, have awareness of Hung at the navel. And that is because at the navel is the seat of our where our energy or power is concentrated. And this is where we need to focus our wind energies to increase this power. And the power of wind actually is connected to mindfulness too, or a mind that is free from distraction, is really directly related to wind energies. So therefore, when the wind energies abide at the navel, then the mind is in a mindful state. And so then you just imagine that this wind at the navel is Hung. And then the Hung is it's like this feeling that you have a force coming into your navel. For example, when you're lifting a heavy object, then there is this force that comes from the belly area. So this is how you can recognize it. Oh, it's this like force that comes when I lift something, when there's this contraction of the muscles there. So this is where the wind energies abide. So for the Hung, therefore, it's not really the letter, so to say, but it's not the shape, how it looks like, but it's the sound, it's the energy of it, of Hung, the feeling of Hung at the navel. And with mindfulness, you should sustain awareness of that continuously. So there's this ongoing feeling of Hung, Hung, Hung pulsating in your body, and this pulsating, that is the wind energy. And so in this way, naturally, power increases, and when thoughts then arise, they just naturally are shattered or collapse through the power of this wind energy. That is the sound of Hung. So Hung is the sound, and that is the pulsating like vibration, not the shape, and that you have to visualize. So in this way, maybe it becomes easier. So again, the Hung is the wind. Hung is the wind or the movement, which is the energy or force that should be concentrated in your navel. So basically, the mind should abide at the navel.
Zupu Chawati, long travel chawa. In the areas of Hung de Chawati, Jeftabu Yori, Penata, Maranina. Ariki, Munisem mind by Ariki, the river, the Chawati, the hungry, the Hong Kong, the river Chadu.
Allergy.
Apple Korea, tea, the Chawati, the young, the river, the hungry, the home with the Chawati all over the way. They know it. 초삼을 lonely, 초가 속지 못 가래 가는데 뒤에들이 다 초가 나오냐마다 납치들이 이 한국 공소들이 포화 총을 배 홍대 가닥하는 데를 가다가 롱는 데들이 롱도 샘진 줄 아셔 버리 롱도 생이 찍고 직접 차대요. 대회들이 초라탑은 제시고 그래야지.
All the physical sensations in your body are also a subtle wind energy. And so what we need to do is we need to recognize that all these feelings are that we kind of unite them with mindfulness and recognize them as Hong. So for example, like allergies, when you have allergies, like Abo's been sneezing a lot recently. So when you get an allergy attack and you start sneezing, so when the sneeze is coming up, there's this feeling that is kind of moving up before it comes out and you sneeze. So then that is the feeling you should recognize when it comes, when you're almost sneezing. So that is subtle wind energy moving, and subtle wind energy is the Hong. So all such sensations, so physical sensations are Hong, are wind energy. And so through the Hong, actually, you can actually interrupt them. So when you think of the Hong in that moment, you can actually stop these various sensations, because they arise due to this notion, this sense of an I, a me being there. So actually also, therefore later, when the consciousness leaves, it is also said that this is also wind movement. So this recognition is the supreme power or transference. So you can apply this concept really all over the place. Whatever movement we are speaking about, kind of energetic movement in the body, any feeling in the body, a physical sensation that arises, you can all apply the same principle to that. It's all basically moving wind energy that has Hong as the nature.
Question 6. How do I avoid confusion and never forget my Yiddam, even in a challenging situation such as one's death?
일단 탐치 찍다 돈들이 사실 죽으러 돈 거래. 사실 죽으러 돌은 감이 죽어도 아빠비를 돈 거래. 아빠비를 거면들이 다다 숨들거로 내와지 함대 용띠지 내 혼남대 양대 장. 내와지 함용띠는 미래 시제 내가래 순남고 시제들이 사실 순남고 도고 내와도 순남을 좀 시. 이 생은제시 터지 약과거나 내와지는 로사요. 나 시선 기여 말이지. 시선 나서 다르가 대학교는 도그래서 대담도 왔겠어 말. 대학교 신강 용대다 아빠미 통지 시제에서 대라 장공역 보지 만나요 보지 않아. 그 갑자기도 나 시선가 대학교는 도사요. 아빠미라면 세를 뛰는 이 진강 뛰고 말이. 대리 손제 마을들이 남산지 대학교들은 다 이 시제가 말이 생긴 코아 다디지 시제에서 다디는 되는 먹이가 공대요래. 다다리 들이란 것들이 왜냐 카타나를 보았게 사이에 다다리 세트 단지 나오냐마 되는 진피를 놓나 딱바 로제때는 보아줬대리 이가 샤르산이 디와지 자차자로요 말까지 산속sem이오 진피를 놓요 진피를 놓대 디와지 사움테리 나게 진피를 놓지 치우나 대산이 샤르자동이 요말 쇼동가 요말이 들을 보나 사티그랑 그게 말래 속줄라서 래 듣바 장게요래 아주 뭐 상거래지 냐와라 손도 빠장거래 상손에 탈도 배세다 다나 수복을 들이 듣바 넘내냐나 들이 되게 하트 듣바 침부 상도 니 성도 되게 정고 나와서 좀성 물을 보지 그게 총총 저게 니 손으로 잡차만 못도 그래 이제 저거 이제 납시 저게 로 잡차만 등에 용거나 물을 못 채는데 등에 총총이 용었더니 상도리가 까라상보리 상 나타된 잠들 저거리 이 셔등에 싸움에 와서 네 아침에 사다는 공고래 사지에 받으면서 와다가 공고래
You should learn to kind of summarize or combine all the Yiddam deities into a single one. So they all are included within a single deity. And the single deity ultimately is Dharmakaya. That's the meaning of the completion stage. And the Dharmakaya is the Buddha Amitabha. So now, when you're while you're alive, you should familiarize yourself with the qualities of the Pure Land of Dewa Chen, and again make prayers to be born there, and really develop complete trust that I will be born there when I die. And the Pure Land itself is created through the merit of the Buddha. Actually, all happiness, all bliss is a creation of merit. So you can maybe arrange an image of the Buddha Amitabha. So you really familiarize yourself and basically feel, if I die now, it is fine. I'm ready to go to Dewa Chen. So for that, to come to that certainty, you have to reflect on the qualities of Dewa Chen, and also the compassion of the Buddha Amitabha, the Buddha Amitabha's wisdom, his compassion, and his great powers, and then make single-pointed aspirations to be born in Dewa Chen. So then when it comes to the time of dying, then you are fine with dying, because you know, I'm ready to go, because I will go to Dewa Chen. And that you're able to think that way because you have habituated to it. And in that moment, then, that's all you need to think about. It is enough if you just think of the Buddha Amitabha in an instant, bring him to mind, and the Pure Land of Dewa Chen. You don't have to think about anything else. But then it's important that we habituate to that. And so that's difficult to just straight away have this conviction. And that's because samsaric sentient beings have very strong self-grasping and a lot of negative habits. So it's hard to just visualize it because of self-grasping. And so that's why also in the Poa scriptures, for example, it mentions that actually the most supreme Poa is the practice of altruism. And if you have altruism, then you can be completely certain, with 100% certainty, thinking that when I die, I'm sure I will go to Dewa Chen because I possess bodhicitta. The altruistic mind is the seed of Dewa Chen. So you need to be able to fully trust in your own altruism. And then you will not suffer so much, and also you will not be afraid of death. And also you will understand that actually all physical illness and all pain is in a way a good thing, because we are purifying our negative karma. And illness is the karma of having killed others in previous lives. So now we are purifying this negative karma, and we have to purify it. Also, that's the purpose of hell. We go there to purify these negative karmas, but in the end, again, we become liberated. It is through the experience of suffering that we become liberated, actually. So as a human being, as a precious human being, to experience such suffering is actually a very good thing, because it is that as a human being, even the slightest suffering purifies a great deal of negative karma. It is said that as a precious human being, a single headache can purify the karma of rebirth in the lower realms for many aeons. So the slightest suffering as a precious human being actually can purify endless years of suffering in the three lower realms. So therefore it's actually a good thing. And if it happens, then we should consider ourselves even as fortunate, because a small suffering purifies a huge amount of negative karma. So when you know that, then you will also suffer much less from your illness and your pain and so on. So in any case, this is something you should habituate to now when you are alive, so that at that time you are able to bring the Buddha Amitabha to mind straight away.
Yina Treyore, Lavagation, Nala Tredote, Rana Tagoles, Tasso, Sound Talk Roar to Sound Talk Rang Seminary Yore, Sound Kari Shokchina, the Sound J. Royore, the Hako Pena, Ya, 시단계 냐라 demok tonjo senaki yada docha me ngaja ga la thado ga la meidi tetakil roar do sing chok menta ya donati nyum wa de sile ga dungne de kosol yore 라미는 탑도 동가 사람 보통 동에 로아도 동에 제일 상어던 티 사우 가리 뉴먼 버쪽들이 뉴먼 버쪽 가리 촉체도 되는 가리 촉체 맞는 저것도 랑랑다 랑딱 자는 까티는 되는 말로 타데 가리 다 상태 우리 대화하는 거 이때 다 상적 심적으로 뭐지 맞지 계속 다 상태다 보자고도 이들이다 저거 동호들이 상적 심적으로 뭐지 돼 내가 돌이 다 독사지에서 뭐하게 사우드다 보자야 비치 보여래 사우드랑 싸워서 강조랑 따라 하고 그래지.
And sometimes, people actually ask this question a lot. Also, they ask me, where will I go after this life, after I've died? But actually, that's a question you should ask yourself by looking at your own mind. Because the seeds of the 6 realms of samsara are present in our own mind. And then whichever of those seeds is the strongest will ripen. For example, if it's anger, then it ripens into hell. Or if it's ignorance, one becomes an animal. Or if it's stinginess or greed, one becomes a hungry spirit. Or if it's attachment, desire, one becomes a human. Or if it's pride, one becomes a god. Or if it's jealousy, one becomes a demigod. And so we can see the seeds in our mind, even though we call them 6 different names, like the 6 realms of samsara, they really are nothing but the activity of the 6 or different kinds of afflictive emotions. For example, this is why the jealous gods experience constant fighting and quarreling, or the gods experience the suffering of change and falling to lower rebirths and so on. So the seeds for all these sufferings are the 6 afflictive emotions in our mind. And then whichever one is the strongest, this is the one that will ripen. So if you want to know where you will go, you have to look at your own mind. Only you can see what's in your mind, the seeds in your mind. And then once you identify those seeds, then you need to next know what's the method not to go where I'm going to go. The method is to cultivate love. If you cultivate love, you will naturally go to Deva Chen. That's why we call it the precious bodhicitta. And then you should recognize that means all I need to do is hold on to love. If you have the precious bodhicitta, then temporarily you will be born in the higher realms and ultimately attain enlightenment. So it's really important to identify this seed in your mind and to purify these seeds. So the question where you will go is really something you have to see for yourself by looking at your own mind.
Question number 7. Sometimes I feel a heavy energy in my body when I'm judging someone or they're unhappy with me, but also for no reason. I clear the energy by doing 9 purification breath, visualization, meditate, or salung, and then I burp out the heavy feeling. The more heavy I feel, the more I burp. After that, I feel both physically and mentally clear again. Why do I take in the heavy feeling and burp it when it goes away? Should I not practice salung?
이 초아데 미참아 그저는 유무바 독대 요래 유무바 독대 때문에 세 열기 유무바 독대 난 세고 난 소요 유무바 독대 쩔쩔 가능 잡으나 이리지 다 초속체 보이는 거요. 대답제 초아데 문이지 아주 그래 무보단 재미 쪽으로 되는 누마답을 마시기 쪽으로 내도 레드 참아지 않아 좋아해 다다 이게 피다 누지 참아 야 하면 레그 되와 짜짜 요거를 도보나 레 도모나 레 칼 레드 석 생구지요래서 들이 다다 라는 배나고 많이 가요 되잖아 오 대치 하면 레에서 들 코로란 거를 때 생구지는 거 없지만 콜그 말때 때도 지송사서 뒤뒤 못 생각하면 누마다를 해서는 처먹고 잡더라고요. 레그 왕거리 처먹 누마다를 다다 조금 말이죠. 레그 compulsory 파욕이야. 이때 소화된 매발로요. 이때 뭐 봐서 때가 삼지대 그래서 폐기 요리들이 안 거도 침마시 받을 때들이 저거 소화도 말 때라 당반이 사지 소화지 발리 와자고 와서 소화 탐지에 대해서 뭐도 침말 때 등일이 등한 위에 계속상 대파요들이 책속과도 해요. 다들 파요야 자가 소화가 서서들이 내려서 다트 로를 잡고 가리를 초tumtum증이 저요리 차당도 봐. 모든 지만들이 차당도 봐. 자신 점을 차기 벌 당에 디소들이 소화탐지 파요요요요 하나 뒤뒤 소화도 용마요 말이 로로 차를 배나 저는 자로마 차라들이 잡서 랍나게 미로리 내 당만이 소화지 비식을 소화지에서 온 것들이 새로 박차이 좋고요. 새로 박차이 알았더니 시합 비식을 박차이 좋다고요 말이 샤론을 담도 소화다 뭐 샤론을 빠르게 다 좋고요. 박차 맞아 봐도 비식이 용띠들이 새로 박차 맞아를 강해서 저기요 말이 그래서 저 박차가 종을 했지. 다들 뭐 차가 저 홍홍홍들이 또는 내가 로를 깎여요. 초아지 깎아야지.
Every person has the 6 afflictive emotions, and due to that, all kinds of feelings arise within us. So it is because we connect to an outer object, like another person, and that triggers inner feelings in our mind, the 6 afflictive emotions, and so on. And when these kind of when there's like a conflict between the outer and the inner, then that leads to this heavy feeling. So there's this conflict between like you're perceiving the outer, but it's conflicting your mind. So that's why this heavy feeling arises. And what that heavy feeling really is grasping at a true existence of things. You believe that this is how it is, it's true. You don't know that it's illusory. And actually, everything is like that. Everything is illusory. And also everything is karma. All happiness and suffering, all benefit and harm, all kinds of relationships in our lives are all our past karmic connections from previous lives. So whether it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend and so on, it's all karmic connections. And so, for example, when somebody wrongly accuses you of something, and then you get angry because you feel wronged, then you feel that, oh, he did that to me, that's wrong, I didn't do anything, and so on. You think that way also because you believe in the true existence of appearances, and you don't see the illusory nature. So if you see that things are illusory, then you can just, with that knowledge, basically close the door to all kinds of different feelings. And it's not just this life. Whatever we experience is the ripening of karma from previous lives. And that's why all kinds of feelings may arise. But if you just let it go, knowing that this is illusory and it's just karma, then the feeling will also naturally disappear. And so maybe some visualizations can be a little bit helpful, but the main thing really is that you must give up the clinging thought, this fixation that things possess a true inherent existence. That's why there's this heavy feeling. And the Buddha taught, when he taught meditation, he taught the close application of feelings, applying mindfulness on feelings. And that means that you have this feeling of that's how it is, it's real, this feeling. And then you just have to let that go. And, or for example, when somebody says something to you that bothers you, then you have to let that go. So whatever arises, you just keep letting it all go, one after the other. And then these feelings just won't stay in your mind, in your body. And that refers to any kind of feeling. So sometimes it's the various sense objects that trigger feelings like form and sound, taste, touch, and so on. And sometimes it's just the slightest sensation. Any sensation leads to either thoughts of attachment or aversion. If it's something that we find pleasant, we become attached to it. And if it's unpleasant, we develop a resentment against it. But the essence is that we believe in its true existence. And that's what we have to let go of. And so whenever these feelings arise, you have to let it go. Every time it arises, have to let it go. And then eventually there is no feeling. And you just stay in this relaxed state. And then the feelings just come more like waves on water. But mainly this heavy feeling is because of this belief that it's real feeling. And without mindfulness, it is then that feeling actually creates karmic imprints. But the feeling itself is fine, but if you recognize it with mindfulness, then you will not place an imprint in your mind. So the feeling then still arises, but then you just let it go, and then it becomes purified, and no imprint is placed in your mind. So that's the quality of mindfulness. And that's the fault of clinging fixation too. And so so there's this like kind of crossroads. The feeling arises, and then there's mindfulness. And then instead of forming another imprint, you visualize the Hong, for example. You just think Hong, Hong, Hong. And in that way, the feeling also actually will go away. And so this is actually a really important point, and it actually comes here. We come back to the illusion-like samadhi from the sutra path. So this is what you need to understand here: is the illusion-like samadhi. So that ultimately, it is all these feelings are illusions, and also self and the other person and so on, all are illusions. So the person, for example, if it's about a person consists of the 5 aggregates, and basically when you look closer, the person is nothing but a heap of dust. And that's really the nature of that person when you look closely. There's nothing there, there's no real person. The person is actually empty. The body is illusory, and so is your body. So you and the other person really do not actually exist the way you think you do. And if you recognize that, then you will not place this imprint of this, the feeling creates an imprint. So this imprint will not be placed in your mind. So the imprint is placed when you think, this is real, I'm feeling this, that there's this feeling. So you label it, and then you're creating an imprint, and that imprint accumulates karma. So therefore it's important to reflect on the illusory nature of self and other all the time, again and again. You think about this illusion like samadhi again and again. Think that self and the other are like a heap of dust. And also you should read the Heart Sutra and reflect on its meaning. And then when you see that other person, you will recognize, oh, that person, he or she don't really actually exist. And then your mind will become relaxed. So actually you should read the Heart Sutra.
Next question. Some people seem able to truly enter the Dharma by purifying their hearts and thus their actions. Others have less success in this. What determines who can practice the Dharma with a genuine heart and who ends up being overwhelmed by suffering, negativity, and toxicity?
So it's not, first of all, it depends on our karma, really. Because it is said that if you wish to know what you did in a previous life, look at your present life. So it's the present life is the karma from previous life. So we have a wish to enter the Dharma, but then there's people have different karma. For example, some have the karma of having regretted their negative deeds, and so they have recognized that they have done something wrong, and then they regretted and confessed. And it is said that even though negative actions have no good qualities, if they had one, then it would be their potential to become completely purified through confession. So first of all, it's due to karma, and also it has to do with recognizing negativities and confession. For example, one could read the Three Skanda Sutra, the Three Heaps Sutra, with regret, and then know that it will be better in the future. So even though if you're that person that is like the one who is suffering and negative and toxic and so on, then you should still not feel like totally dejected and think that I cannot. That's it. I'm hopeless. And nothing will. I'm just like that. I'm just bad. Because if you just stay with that and don't do anything about it, it will just get worse and worse. So on the one hand, you should think that this is my karma and I'm purifying it. And also, things can change if you make an effort. And so if you regret negative deeds and you confess them, and if you really make a great effort, then actually such a person can turn out to be actually the best practitioner.
Next question. For the purposes of accumulation, is it acceptable to count mantras while listening to Dharma teachings?
So when you're listening to Dharma teachings, it's better not to count mantras, because then you can't really focus on the teachings and understand the meaning. And it's really important to understand the meaning. But of course, everybody is different. There are some people who have a very stable meditation, and they are able to recite and accumulate mantra and at the same time also completely understand the teachings. But actually, it's really the same. So the reason why you are accumulating mantras is to accumulate merit. It's a merit. And understanding the meaning of the Dharma is also a merit. So in terms of the benefit and the purpose, they are the same. They're both merit. And it's better if you focus well on the merit that you're accumulating. So all of these activities of listening to the Dharma or teaching the Dharma and so on, or practicing it, all is the same in terms of being merit. But now while you are listening to our Dharma teachings, in general, it's better if you do not count mantras at that time.
Next question. I see that often your face twitches or you are short of breath, but you never seem to lose awareness. I have epilepsy, and when the twitching starts, I cannot sustain awareness. What can I do to sustain awareness when this happens?
So your perception of that, of course, is a sign of that you have compassion, but also now I have different feelings and pain all over the place. But actually, the reason why maybe you cannot be mindful then is because of your focus on the physical, on the body. So that you, for example, I am speaking and I have all these things going on, but I don't actually really notice it, but you notice my things going on because you are focusing on the physical, on the body. The body is just like a house, so don't focus on that. Don't look at the body, what's happening in the body or my body. Just listen to the words, listen to the teachings. And don't really think that the body is so important. Don't focus on the body. Just let it be, put it somewhere else as something not so important. And what's more important is to listen to the teachings and to hear the words. It's not the body and the physical feelings. These are not so important. And so that's the reason why, if you see this, if the body is not so important, if the mind is more important, then the focus is not on the body, and therefore it becomes easier then to practice mindfulness and different kinds of visualizations and so on. So you have to focus more on the mental aspect of meditation and mindfulness and so on.
Next question. If I break a tantric root vow, how can I regain it? Do I have to take another initiation, or are there other practices to do?
상하 담체 따외서 우리 담체 양치마다 세부게 딴 잠을 세부 남도 잠을 남도 뭐치마들이 양을 걸베 들이 쪼랑 거니들이 소코르당 왕리지 왕리랑 왕리를 주고요래 등이지 왕걸 요래 지거들이 들이랑이 또지서 하다서 따외 장들이 검잡들이 되게 딱 해요래 또 검자시나 들이라들이 그것도 시작하자면 요 손코르도야 왕질이 바데 왕이 양탁해요래지 너 소고 담색담제들이 pomo서도 네 로고래 소장이 pomo서도 로고래 마르다들 검자 다리 남도 저바티 셈벼들이 저바티 박차비마 땅들이
It is said that the samaya of the secret mantra are purified through the view, through meditating in the nature of the mind. And we transgress the samaya when all kinds of thoughts arise in the mind. And then when we believe in the true existence of these thoughts and so on. And we can, for example, to purify these, we can practice a Gana Chakra feast offering, or we can also take a self-empowerment. For example, the Samadhi empowerment is a self-empowerment. But mainly the secret mantra about Samaya are purified through the view, which is through meditation, if you know how to meditate. From a relative perspective, you could do a Gana Chakra feast offering or take the 4 empowerments through taking a self-empowerment. And according to the sutra path, that is, according to Pratimoksha and the Bodhisattva path, the broken vows are purified through, for example, the recitation of the 3-heap sutra. And the secret mantras, Samaya, are purified through meditation practice. That is, through meditation practice, you will purify these fixations in the mind, the discursive mind, and the various karmic imprints. And actually, this is also how we break our samaya. It is really through those karmic imprints.
The Sotak Tapte Mandu Sidong Shagore. Sansewa Tapte the Sabata Niji, Tabi by Shagore. Sangha Tapte the Tawe Shagore.
The vows of the Pratimoksha are purified through remorse and a vow to not repeat these again, and the negative actions. And then in the Bodhisattva path, they are purified through love and compassion, the 4 immeasurables. And according to the Vajrayana, they are purified through the view.
Next question. Chenrezig is my Yiddam, but I'm very sick and face a heart surgery. Should I stop Chenrezig and switch to Medicine Buddha to recover, or Amitayus to survive? Or can Chenrezig provide the same benefits to my health longevity?
Yiddam tamchi javatam yeshirongde Chenrezig gomdele sla tamchi nyujebiri chiktayo Yiddam tamchi nugore Chenrezig nugore Chenrezig chubo gomdele chogoyore jibo jago mare ita lu dasa tamchi geteri range deta lujugori ta le sakpa tamchi sangdo yore sante de toninje 대타워처럼 예담지 보자고 말해. 그런 만에 이게 저쪽들이 바로 서바쪽 힘보리 들이 예담 탐지 냠도 그렇고 찌네들도 그래. 가리 예담 탐지 인지비리 직자요 말이. 인지리
So it is fine if you just continue to just practice Chenrezig, because it is said that within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. And especially Chenrezig is the deity, the Yiddam of compassion. And there is not a single deity without compassion. They all have compassion. So really all the deities are complete within Chenrezig. And it's fine if you just practice only Chenrezig. There is no need to switch to a different deity. And regarding the illness, you should think that you're purifying negative karma and practice Tonglen, and no need to switch a Yiddam deity. Chenrezig embodies them all. The 6 syllables of Chenrezig's mantra are the essence of the 6 paramitas. And by practicing Chenrezig, you are really practicing or accomplishing all the other Yiddam deities together. So that is because Chenrezig is the deity of compassion, and all deities possess that compassion.
Next question. Who is the one experiencing happiness and suffering if there is no self?
생 포랑을 아시는 마기 요거도 없어는 대화다 좋았지 말람다 주막다 우리 가리를 초라지 마기 요거도 없었지 오 대화는 십지 탐지를 돼 대화요 십지 탐지를 등에 요래 가리 대화도 등에 니가 되들이 주막다 우리 옛날에 대화지 가리 색을 아시는 유모가 되게 좋아요래 유모가 다진 오마리 얘기 유모가 것이 유모지 똑같이 땅에 대외에 다지 정말 유모바데 라지 koktada sene leulati nyumo de hakuna nyumo toji te ta toji to dina daji ni to so kanza na te nyumo wata ja shak to yore pe ta dolati mark ba te la yo so ngao nyama de te yo sang de tin de ba de nga me ba ha ko so daji ni mdo san hakuna te ko ta sen na kwa ta re san te 나또 탁지베나 따지저리 못다베들이 식라고 돌라고요 나요 상태 나이서 나색들이 독도로요 저때 나이 뭐지 지핑을 놓치고 그래 다디요 말이 대외들이 조금 상제 지핑 선을 정도 상들이 다지니지 상고요 이제 지저는 따라 나 요바는 이제 박차 참만 코와 토바을 박차 나가 서로 싸요 다음에 있어들이 까빠똥도 되면 저파에 루미치고 멤버 서로 세르송 다음에 하고들이 대용티속으로 살자지 뭘 다지니요 말에 옛날에 레박차 톡베들이 다다다 소아들이 유모가 때 가리샤르티 소아들 유모요래지
So we think that the one who we are the ones experiencing these feelings, but actually when you look at your mind, you can't find such a self. And it's this perception of a self is just like a dream or like an illusion. So you think that I'm having this experience, I'm feeling so happy or I'm suffering so much. And actually everyone has those kind of feelings. All beings experience happiness and suffering, the same happiness and suffering. And that happiness and suffering are illusory. They do not actually exist. So this feeling of happiness and joy also doesn't actually exist. We just create these, we fabricate these feelings because of the afflictive emotions. we believe in a self and in others, actually they don't exist. And so since there's no self and other, the so-called others' afflictions and my own afflictions are one and the same, because there is no self and other. So when an afflictive emotion arises and you see it, you see that actually it's nothing. It's not there. It's empty. So on the basis of that, one can realize emptiness, and so such a person who, on the basis of that, realizes the non-duality of self and other, will be able to let go of all the afflictive emotions, because there is not the experience of happiness and suffering also doesn't really actually exist. It's just because of unawareness that we think that there is this me and I that experiences this and that. But actually, when you really understand Mahamudra, you see that there is nothing actually there. There is no one, and there is no self and no other. The mind is just like space. And when you recognize that, then not all the thoughts that arise are like kind of grass, fresh grass growing. You can easily cut it. You can easily cut through the root of it, and they're not so solid yet. But if you have this very solid grasping of it's real and I am real, then it will just get increasingly solidified and worse. Also, when you cultivate an altruistic mind first of all, that self-clinging becomes lighter. So therefore it is said the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So a Buddha is someone who has cleared away all these fixations that there is a self and there is other. And so it is all of these karmic imprints and this idea of me accumulated since beginningless time in samsara only exist because of our idea of there being a self. That's why we perceive them that way. And however, in the Mahamudra teachings, for example, it says that when in the moment you see that, the moment light shines, a single lamp flame clears away the darkness of 1,000 aeons. So the moment you see that, you see no more self and other. There is no self and other. But we don't see that because our karmic imprints, these layers of karmic imprints, are very thick. And therefore, various afflictive emotions arise, different feelings arise. And so therefore we need to first recognize them and let go of these feelings and so on. It's really an excellent question. So it is because there is this, we believe that there is a self, that we kind of carry this imprint of this self with us from life to life since beginningless time. And this is a very heavy load. This actually is also like related to this heavy feeling. And this is a heavy load of karmic baggage that we carry with us. And the heaviness is due to the self. And when there is self, naturally there are afflictions. And when there are afflictions, there is suffering. But actually, when one realizes that there is no self, then one realizes that there is also no suffering. and then one experiences the great bliss without any suffering. Because there is no self, there is also no one who experiences suffering. There is no one who experiences suffering. Because suffering is empty, and the one who experiences suffering is empty. They both don't exist. All suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So it is that self, which is like a magnet that pulls toward it everything that's suffering by nature. And that makes the mind become increasingly solid like an ice block. So it'd be very good to understand that. So the antidote to all suffering is the altruistic mind. And it is to think about the suffering of others, to practice Donglen. Because even though you suffer, if you think that my suffering and the suffering of others is exactly the same, if you think about others' suffering, then your own suffering will become much lighter. If you can't do that, often people are so overwhelmed by suffering that they even commit suicide. And that is the fault of self-grasping, of this belief in a self that does not actually exist.
Next question. My family is threatening to call the police to physically remove me and my partner from our home that we share with them if we do not give up the Dharma. We vowed to not abandon the Dharma, so what can we do?
어디에 파마가 고사리 명이 맞고 있는 나와 땅게지 파. 이 소소리들이 사바 산촉생 보면 사바다 이제 파마 고사리 땅에 나와 땅게지 파. 랍초고. 그 가세도 많이 찾다는 거.
So even though in your heart you're not giving up the Dharma, but you can still tell that to your parents. You can still tell them, if you want me to give up the Dharma, that's fine, I will give up the Dharma. So you just practice the Dharma in your heart and just continue to cultivate love and compassion and bodhicitta. At the same time, you can tell your parents to kind of to pacify them that it's okay, I will give up the Dharma.
We will take a brief break and resume when Garchen Rinpoche returns. Thank you. Next question. If I have a strong connection to a past guru such as Gampopa, and after praying intensely, if I dream of receiving an empowerment from him, is it valid?
Yes, you can regard this, the empowerment is valid.
Next question. After having gained complete enlightenment, is it compulsory for us to return to Samsara to liberate all sentient beings? If yes, do we have to take on a physical form, or can we also benefit beings as Dharmakaya?
가시 줄로 소진 첨보라는 줄록들 소진 첨보 요래 갑들이 가래 줄록 집안고 가는 사지 착자 타만에 좀 오래지 들이 줄록 참아지 사람들 잡아야 보래지 소랑 주고로 주사때 아작 같은 첨보 뛰는이랑 라마 개시지 같은 첨보래 삼 세대 파도 참아 찬양마지는 줄록도 소지적으로 소지지나 내려들이 양들이 진람을 할때 양 소리 연구 요래 소리 영들들이 라도 요래 서 남반 잡을는 주력답지 약고리 센데 파트라는 이 소리를 대와야 뒤보 잡게 요래 대기지 보요래 가지마 가세
So first, Rinpoche, just coming back to the previous question about the empowerment, and so though if you feel connected to a certain lama from a certain lineage, you should still also kind of train the mind in an unbiased view. That there shouldn't be any bias between the different lineages and different Buddhist traditions, because now when this feeling arises that you especially like this one, then you should remind yourself that all the different traditions, the lineages, all actually originate from the Buddha Shakyamuni. So all the Buddha Dharma comes from the Buddha Shakyamuni, and therefore all the lineages, all the traditions are incredible and they are excellent. And so then within that recognition, then you feel grateful toward your own lineage, and then within that you feel grateful to your own guru, but at the same time you see them all as the same, completely equal. And otherwise, if you start to develop kind of biases in your mind, like kind of falling to one side but not liking the other side, and then due to this biased state of mind, you will be lost. And that's very important. Actually, not even just Buddhist or non-Buddhist, whatever it is, the mind should really be unbiased and pervade them all kind of equally.
대화지를 롱갔다 싸와지를 쭉 용서 이 습지 탐지의 대식 정보 요래 이제는 샘들 대식 정보 남지의 요래 대 강왕보다는 대비되는 게 능지의 차다 돈이 차는 참말로 잡대 요래 저는 능지의 차를 들이다다 싸와를 쭉 용서 라지들이 남이 잡아봐봤다 뭐 이런 거리 주양 집부 노도들이 자차가 버는 로음으로 이제 영요만에 틀에 도미 노동제에서 이 사지 공작들이 나진이지 미장 Ramji che te va a tavoli, senti Rana che so che Kamla Kandar te la te tomba da dona, Shizar Saji Sawachi so. Jari senti stabji kan deshi nyambo yo pe, te tola te lower bacha danji nidi tabi te la sam nujirangji te shirata nujirangji te chapa papangaji yo yo meni. Te nga chuko dodo je te tata te te daji nidi me chadi te nidi me chadi. Chuko namka tabi nidi tato changli yo mari te tabi tele tomi rodong te tolo zoa me ka gone te namka ta tinda chapa tabi seji tongje ki yo
When one attains, then the next question about the complete enlightenment. So when one attains enlightenment, one actualizes the qualities of the three kayas. And also recently, Milarepa, also we spoke about a teaching by Milarepa on how one attains enlightenment. And so that is first through the experience of non-conceptuality or emptiness. One experiences, one realizes, actualizes the Dharmakaya. And then through the experience of bliss, the Sambhogakaya, and through clarity, the Nirmanakaya. But on the basis, fundamentally, all beings possess Buddha nature. And so that is what is to be recognized when it comes to benefiting them. And so then, because on the basis of knowing that, because there's only one Buddha nature, one can pervade sentient beings. So because the mind is empty, it is all pervasive. So it is the empty nature that pervades them all. And it is the compassion that then manifests in the 6 realms of samsara in their individual form, manifesting naturally, just like rain falling down. So there is not this solid entity, the me, that goes from here to there, like a body of flesh, blood, and bones. But it is said that the enlightened activities of the Buddhas are performed effortlessly, spontaneously. And so the Buddha had realized, like Shakyamuni and so on, had realized that there is no self and no other. And on the basis of that, they have become all pervasive. And then appear in whichever way necessary to tame sentient beings. And the benefit of sentient beings is accomplished on the basis of realizing that beings all have the same nature. They all possess Buddha nature, and they're only obscured by temporary habitual karmic imprints. And so with that realization, then through wisdom and compassion, the Buddhas then appear naturally, like rain falling down. So there is no effort, there is no intention of going somewhere, there is no me who is going to help somebody else, because the Buddhas have already realized that there is no self and no other. There's no other to benefit in that sense. The space like Dharmakaya is all pervasive. So that is how the enlightened activities of all these Buddhas are performed effortlessly and spontaneously, just like the appearance of clouds in the sky or the rain falling down from the clouds. It just happens naturally.
시합 체종은 현재 체종, 현재 체종요래, 현재 체와들 시합이 연구 요래, 현재의 시합지들이 돈이다 현재 조의 인성, 대회들이 저기로 덮어 나를 때 대변을 되는 들이 가래나 시합다 현재를 저기 핀바도 봐 때들이 사직을 차례도 또 사직 시바 가래 시합다 현재이면 사직도 도도들이 나오셔 봐도요 말이 시락다 뉴지리 돈이 뉴지 좀 줘들이 남카다 왜들 또 토고마 몰람라들이 다 잡고 좀 몰람다 때나 어떻게 사제 탑지게 이제 받아 차례때 하고 요래 일단 당아 찍고 상모당들이 되다 들이양 고사 연구요래 일단 다 확보도 좀 보죠 본데게 되게 약혼이 되잖아 오 단체에 도움이 도동제 저 sep지 탐지 칸 라지기 샷 데바시죠 샷 니게 데바 탐제들이 사지가 들바리 삼니 데이터 샵 메바 니게 비바 탐제들 그래서 레박차 도바리 데 탐제들이 데이터로 고가 차앙들이 강해요 말이지.
Also, nowadays, scientists in the world, when they look at, for example, they look at animals, different animals, they actually observe that they're same in being animal, but then they have different levels of compassion and wisdom, but they all have it because they protect one another. For example, they look after one another with love and with compassion, with wisdom. And that also shows that they all actually possess Buddha nature, even though they have this body. They possess Buddha nature. They possess wisdom and compassion, just different levels, mainly different levels of compassion. The greater the compassion, the more wisdom they will also have. It is said that emptiness supports compassion. And so the mind, Dharmakaya mind, is just like space. And from within that space, with great compassion, beings benefit one another. And this mutual benefit, even if it's animals, for example, it's the activity of a Buddha, enlightened activity of a Buddha. Because what is a Buddha? A Buddha is wisdom and compassion. The Buddha has no self. There is no thought of an I that exists. The Buddha's mind is wisdom and compassion, or emptiness and compassion, like space. And for example, you know about these qualities when you read certain prayers, like the prayer for excellent conduct and so on. For example, if you just think about that, then all of these Buddha qualities, these activities and so on will arise within your mind, especially when you listen to the commentary on the prayer for excellent conduct. So then you learn that these activities that benefit sentient beings are performed naturally, effortlessly, naturally through the force of wisdom and compassion. And when you see that, then you will recognize that anyone that possesses wisdom and compassion really is a Buddha emanation. And then those who do not possess much wisdom and compassion, they are just temporarily a little bit obscured by karmas and habitual imprints. But when you understand that, then this idea of going and benefiting beings and so on will not appear as a difficulty.
Thank you so much, Garchen Rinpoche, for answering all of these questions. And we thank everyone who submitted their questions, and there'll be a chance for your questions to be answered in the future if they were not answered today, and you can submit questions in the future. Thank you so much, everyone. We dedicate the merit with the bodhicitta prayer. May bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Thank you. Sanjo Senjo Rinpoche Machi Mana Chijerche Jiba Nyamba Me Bayang Onle Gongde Bewo Tinzambling Homa Tajakara Jopatan Tashi the lecture.
Dashi Dele to all the disciples, the Dharma friends who joined us on the live stream.
Thank you.
Everyone, please join us this afternoon for Khenpo Tenzin's introductory talk on the preliminary practices. And if you're interested in attending the Nundro practice retreats, then you'll need to listen to this talk this afternoon with Kempo from 2 to 4 p.m. Hope to see you then. Thank you.